All right, guys, guess what? I got a two for one for you guys today because both of these rivalry games are very similar, and I really wanted to talk about both of them. And I just said, you know what? They're all in the Pacific Northwest. I'm just going to shove them all together and make this a Pacific Northwest rivalry game preview. Hello, everybody. You're listening to the College Sports Superfan, and we're going to travel up to the Pacific Northwest to take a look at these two iconic rivalries up there near the Puget Sound. We've got the Civil War, which is also known as the Platypus Trophy, because some people don't like to call it the Civil War anymore, between Oregon and Oregon State. And then we have the Apple Cup between Washington State and Washington. So, first, I'm going to get into the supposedly, predicted to be more lopsided one, which is the game between the Ducks and the Beavers. And we're going to start with the Oregon State Beavers in this one. Oregon State has been better, in my opinion, than I think a lot of people thought they would be. A lot of people wondered, okay, with the destruction of the Pac-12, Washington State and Oregon State really just getting screwed, basically, just getting left behind by the rest of the college football world to no longer be power conference teams completely out of their own control. What would happen to the teams? What would happen to their morale? How would they be able to navigate this weirdness? So far, both of them have done a great job. Honestly, they've both looked really, really good. Oregon State looks like they have a very impressive defense, and the offense has been better than I think a lot of people expected it to be. Maybe DJ Uyungule should have stayed with Oregon State for his final season, even though Jonathan Smith was leaving. Right now, their quarterback is Gavani McCoy, and he's been solid. Nothing super flashy, nothing spectacular, but he's been a really good game manager. He just doesn't make any mistakes. He has no turnovers so far. He doesn't force bad passes. He's not going to light it up through the air. He's not going to go crazy downfield. He's not going to take off and run, pick up, 50 yards. But he's not going to throw terrible interceptions either. He's done a really good job just staying focused and not making any serious mistakes. And meanwhile, he's got two really good running backs behind him. Anthony Hankerson, who comes in from Colorado, where he had to rush behind a really terrible offensive line with the Buffaloes. Now with the Beavers, seems like he's got a better line and he's making up for it. He's got over 200 rushing yards and three rushing touchdowns through two games. And Jam Griffin, the other running back, also has over 200 rushing yards and three touchdowns through two games. So you combine the two, you got over 400 rushing yards, close to 500 rushing yards, and six rushing touchdowns in just two games. So the ground game has been very impressive. The defense has been very solid. They're coming off of a shutout, a 21 to nothing shutout against San Diego State, who's typically a very solid Mountain West Conference team. Oregon State's got some momentum here. As for Oregon, right, they started the country ranked number three in the country. I personally thought that those rankings were correct. I either had them at number three or number four. Then, after their poor performance against Idaho, they dropped to number seven. Then they didn't play all that great against Boise State, who I think is a super legit group of five team. I think one of the best group of five teams that could make the college football playoff this season. But they still only won by three when they were favored by nearly 20 points at one point, which is why I didn't cover that game. And so Oregon is now dropped to number nine in the country, just barely staying within the top 10 when they had so much hype. And I think a big reason why is because Oregon's offense has been surprisingly one dimensional. We knew they were going to pass it more than they were going to run it, but at the rate they're going, it's very surprising how they've really just been a pass heavy team. Dylan Gabriel, though, has had pinpoint pinpoint accuracy. 84% completion percentage. 84%. And he's got a lot of great receivers that he can throw it to, he can sling it to. So I think that's a big reason why. But I'm just surprised they haven't gotten Jordan James and Noah Whittington, their two running backs, going as much as they should be going. But let's get into some of my concerns for both the Beavers and the Ducks and who I think is going to ultimately end up winning this game. My biggest concern for the Beavers is how undisciplined they've been. So, yes, their defense has looked really good. Yes, they've been able to control the line of scrimmage, but they're committing all these penalties. They had 5 penalties against Idaho State and 6 penalties against San Diego State. And if you get into all these offensive penalties and you're getting way behind the sticks, they don't have the passing game with Gavani McCoy to make up for falling way back at 3rd and 15 and plus. I think Oregon's going to easily end up stopping them on defense over and over again, mostly due to self inflicted wounds. And then my concern for Oregon is that the Ducks' rushing defense has been terrible. It wasn't all that great against Idaho, and it really wasn't that great against Boise State, which again, Boise State does have one of the best running backs in the entire country in Ashton Genty, but still, the rushing defense has not been all that great at all. So if they're not able to control the tempo of the game, Oregon State could really slow things down, make things frustrating for Oregon, and win a grind out defensive battle that way. Oregon does lead the all-time series 68-49 with 10 ties. Crazy that there's that many ties. That's kind of weird. And they have played each other since 1894. So this is one of the oldest rivalries in all of college football. I think it literally is either the third or fourth oldest rivalry in the entire sport. So I'm so glad they are keeping it going. But Oregon right now is favored by 16 and a half. I think the game's going to be closer than that, but at the end of the day, there's just way too much talent with the Oregon Ducks. There's no reason why they should lose this game. I think they're going to end up going on the road to Corvallis and winning this game by 7. It's going to be close. It'll be closer than 16 and a half. I think the Beavers cover, but I think the Ducks ultimately win this game by a touchdown. All right, let's move on to the Apple Cup here. Let's start with the Washington State Cougars. Why is it that Washington State always has an electric, high flying passing offense? It doesn't even matter what coach they have, it doesn't even matter what scheme they're trying to run. They somehow always go back to their bread and butter of just saying, okay, we're going to get a quarterback. He's going to throw it like 60 times a game. He's just going to keep airing it out. This time it's John Mateer is the quarterback, and he is a big play machine. He's averaging more than 10 yards per pass, and he's averaging more than 11 yards per carry. He can run it as well. He's a legit big time dual threat quarterback who just loves to air it out. But the thing is, he's very erratic, only a 55% completion percentage. So he's kind of just slinging it out there, throwing it all over the place and they constantly are going for the big play. They've got some great receivers to make that happen, though. Wide receiver Kyle Williams, I do believe, could be a legitimate potential NFL wide receiver. He was amazing last year with Cam Ward throwing him the football. Now he's the top tier wide receiver for John Mateer. And then the running back, Wayshawn Parker, a true freshman. Wayshawn, he's been a surprise so far. He's been really, really good. He's added some more balance to this Cougars offense that's made them more deadly. And this offense has been potent so far as they scored 70 points against Portland State. And yes, I get it. It's Portland State, but 70 points is still 70 points at the end of the day. And this offense can be very, very good and very well balanced. As I said, 264 yards passing per game and 262 and a half yards rushing per game. So thanks to Wayshawn Parker, they've been able to be one of the more perfectly balanced offenses I've seen. Here's a major concern for the Cougars. It's almost like Washington State is like the same team almost every single year. Electric offense with a ton of passing yards from a gunslinging quarterback, but terrible secondary and terrible passing defense. They are allowing, on average, 470 yards per game through the air through 2 games. That's not very good. And you look at the Washington Huskies, just to get into them, they've got a legit superstar veteran quarterback in Will Rogers, one of the most accurate quarterbacks in SEC history when he's coming from Mississippi State. And he has a 79% completion percentage so far through the season with no turnovers, and he's averaging just under 10 yards per pass. So it's not like he's throwing these little, 3 yard screen passes, because that can jack up the completion percentage and make it a useless stat. No, no, no. He's averaging nearly 10 yards per pass, and he's still got a 79% completion percentage, showing once again that he is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the whole country. Then you've got Jonah Coleman coming over from Arizona, the Jedfish. He was not able to bring Fafita and McMillan, but he was able to bring Jonah Coleman to be the star running back for the Huskies. He has been fantastic. He's super hard to tackle. He's got a lot of balance. He's averaging 8.5 yards per carry. 8.5 yards per carry. Just super hard to bring down. They've got Denzel Boston, who's been a big star wide receiver so far, and then Jeremiah Hunter and Giles Jackson are really good veteran receivers. They don't have crazy numbers right now, but they're guys you could rely on a short third down situation. Getting into some of the history of the Apple Cup, Washington leads the all-time series 76-33 with 6 ties, and they've been playing since 1900. So it is a bit lopsided. The Huskies definitely lead by quite a bit. But what do I think is going to happen in this game? Ultimately, I think the Washington State passing defense is just way too bad. I think Will Rogers is going to pick them apart. The Huskies are going to win this game by at least 7. That is my prediction for that one. All right, guys, we've got a couple more games to preview, including the Bunley Game of the Week is coming up. You guys are going to be wanting to look forward to that one. And stay tuned because we got more college sports content coming out soon. And thank you so much for listening to the College Sports Superfan.